Alright YouTube, let's get started. I have a good one for you guys today. If you're new to the channel, welcome. And if you're returning, appreciate you guys for coming back. Today we're going to be doing the mid taper. As always, you want to start by combing or brushing the hair down to get it laid. And after that, I go in with my one open to get everything nice and even. Going over it a few times to make sure everything is the same length. The clipper that I'll be using on today's cut is going to be the JRL Onyx. This is probably my go-to clipper right now. I just love how smooth and easily that these clippers cut. Once you're done with the initial prep, you're going to go in with your trimmers and set in your first initial ball guideline. After that, you're going to get your clipper, go in with no guard, and open it all the way. Going over it a few times to make sure that the area is all even and to make sure that the guideline is in a desired shape that you want. And then to take this out, we're going to slowly close the lever one by one until we see that line start to fade and disappear. After that, you're going to go in with your one open, and then you're going to do the same. Putting the guideline in, taking your time, making sure it's nice, neat, and even, and then going over it a few times to get the desired shape of the guideline. Then I take that same one open and I kind of rake the hair down to flatten it out a bit more. And then just going over the guideline one more time just to make sure it's right. Now we're going with a 0.5 or half guard all the way open, using the corner of that blade and kind of flicking out. And as you're working yourself down to that bottom line and that guideline, you're going to slowly close the lever one by one until you get down to the bottom and the line is no more. Now I like to go on my 1.5 at the top of that, just to kind of create another soft guideline. And then the one open to kind of bring that all together. And then I turn my clipper over and I do this raking method here. And what that does is get rid of some of the dark spots in the fade that I see there, getting all that to come together a bit more and have a bit of a smoother transition. Now you get your trimmers to start at the top, using mostly the corner of your blade like a pencil and just kind of tracing to get that curved shape in there. And there you go, that's just one side there. And we all know that what you do to one side, you do to the other. You know, at this point, it's kind of just repetition. Remembering the step that you did on one side and then just go ahead and doing that to the other. Taking your time, never really rushing. Paying attention to the detail. Making sure your client is comfortable. And maybe even engaging in the conversation. A haircut for many men can a lot of times be their form of self-care, or maybe even a form of therapy, or even a time where they can just sit back and relax. That's why it's important you don't rush. It's also important to have a good consultation before the cut, so you know exactly what the client wants. And then once you have that, it's just on you to execute. And also remember that when doing a taper or a fade of any kind, you want to make sure that both sides match. Symmetry in barbering is very important. And right here, just gonna knock down everything, getting everything nice and even, just prepping it for a lineup. And remembering that when you're using your trimmers, let your trimmers do the work. You don't want to push down too hard, irritating your client's skin or even causing cuts. To do that, just make sure your trimmers are zero gapped, but not too much where they overlap, where they can cause those cuts. There's nothing worse than getting done with the lineup and then you look back and then there's welts all over your client's neck or forehead. Before you do a lineup, you want to always make sure that the hair is prepped. Combing or brushing the hair into the natural direction that it grows. After I get done doing that, I go with my one open and I go in and knock the hair down. Taking my time because I don't want to knock off too much and I don't want to go too far back. Going with another brush, make sure that everything is laid down in the position that it's supposed to be. And then I go over it one more time to make sure I got everything there nice and even in the same length. Apply some holding spray to put it in its place. And a cool blow dryer with a brush to lock that in. When doing a lineup, you always want to start in the middle. not using the whole blade, but just a part of it. That way you have a bit more control over the lineup. Taking your time and then using the correct trimmers, tapping and pulling away from the lineup to create a sharp line there. Make sure you hit those vertical bars there. And again, always go over it a few times, making sure everything is nice and neat. The lines are crisp and sharp. Combing everything every once in a while to make sure you get those loose hairs that are out of place once you brush or comb it. Now what you did to one side, you're going to do the same thing to the other side. Taking your time and making sure that line is as straight as possible. Going over it a few times, but again, not being rough with the trimmers, letting the trimmers do all the work, just tapping and pulling away from the lineup, leaving nice, sharp, and crisp lines. My client requested enhancements. So before enhancements, you always want to make sure that the lineup is as straight as possible and as clean as possible before you apply those. Enhancements are just that. Enhancements. You don't want to use them to cover any flaws or mistakes that you made. Now right here, I just saw some parts that looked a tad bit darker. So I'm just going to go over that a bit with the one open just to kind of softly even that out. And then just tapping over the lineup one more time. Making sure it's as clean and as straight as possible before I apply any enhancements. When using enhancements, you want it to appear as natural as possible. Using light taps on the sprayer, making sure you're not really too heavy with applying the paint. Once you have all that applied, you're going to go back in with your trimmers. Just making sure you're getting in all the loose hairs or anything that's not lined up or in place. And just giving this the cleanest look as possible before you go in with your razor. Just gently tapping and working myself from one side of the lineup all the way to the other. Once all that is done, we're going to get our razor. And remember that when you're using a razor, always stretch the skin. And always take your time. You don't want to rush, and the next thing you know, you cut your client. And then now you're going to have to get a whole bunch of tissues to stop the bleeding. Because for some reason, cuts in barbershop just don't like to stop bleeding. Making sure you're going over all those lines that you put in with the clipper. Holding the blade at about a 45-degree angle. This will cause less irritation and also allow the blade just to slide on the skin a lot easier. Lineup is the most important part of the haircut. So make sure you're taking your time, making sure everything is coming out nice, clean, and crisp, and most importantly, even and symmetrical. And again, once you do the one side, you can always do it to the other. Make sure you're hitting both of those vertical bars. And also make sure you're hitting both of those C cups. You always want to make sure the client is as relaxed as possible when they're in the chair. Always give the client a mirror at the end of the cut. This is like a last-minute consultation. The client can tell you if he likes or doesn't like anything about the cut, and they can go in and fix those issues if there are any. And there you have it. A nice, clean, smooth mid-taper with enhancements. I appreciate you guys for making it through the video. And if you have any questions or recommendations on cuts that you guys would like to see, go ahead and leave a comment for me in the comment section. And if you aren't already, go ahead and like and subscribe, please. Also, my name is @QuainTheCut on all platforms. That's TikTok, Instagram, and also YouTube. So go ahead and give me a follow, man, if you want to see more content. Peace.